This is On FM on 101.4.
Fantastic. Perfect. I was going to ask, how, I mean, obviously this was, you say 1883. How do you know so much about, I mean, obviously it must have been pretty well documented for you to know so much about him and his characteristics.
Well, there's a chap called Phil Vasily who lives here in London. He's the author of a book called The First Black Footballer.
Right.
That's not how I learnt about the story of Arthur Wharton. I learnt about the story of Arthur when I was a guest for Black History Month at Middlesbrough Town Hall some 3.5 years ago or so. And while I was on stage about to give my talk on the history of black people and music, that was my brief, believe it or not. And while I was giving this talk, some chap from the audience shouted, "Play a Redemption song, Bob Marley," and there was a guitar handy, so I said, "Of course." So
When in
I
Rome.
played Redemption song. But the funny thing was, while I was playing it, on the floor was this brochure, and it was opened, and there was just the name Arthur Wharton. And you know, like in life, where you hear a name and you think, "My God, where have I heard that name before?" Or you see it, or you see the body language of someone from a distance, and you think, "Is that somebody I recognise?" It was one of those moments, and throughout the whole of playing a Redemption song, I was just thinking, "Who's Arthur Wharton? Where have I heard that name?" And it occurred to me, just as you get the customary applause at the end, you know, it was a chap from Newton Aycliffe about 4 years previous had mentioned about him, and it must have, the information must have stuck and then just floated around. And when I got back to my shop in Darlington, and I started doing some research on Arthur, I thought, how on earth can we not have paid appropriate, you know, celebration of this man and his achievements? It just feels wrong. And again, I repeat, you know, when you consider there are no statues of black footballers in this country, there's only one statue of a British black achiever. What does that say about us, immigrant communities, if you like, that come from abroad? My father's from Barbados in the Caribbean. My mother's white English, my father's black Caribbean. And yet, you know, when we think of the Windrush years and our parents coming over to help rebuild the country, and you look at those contributions and you set that backdrop against the notion that the BNP, the EDL, the National Front, their common message is how immigrants, they take our jobs, they take our women, they take our NHS. There's nothing out there to show what we contribute.
No.
So if you think about it in that context, you have to start somewhere. So why not start with the world's first professional black footballer, the world's greatest ever sportsman, arguably, and let's have a statue of him.
Let's!
Why not?
And you are!
Let's
and it's brilliant. It's brilliant to have you on the show, Shaun. So tell us a bit about who has supported the campaign, because a little birdie told me that there's been some quite high-profile support for the campaign.
Yeah, well, people like Stevie Wonder, he and I...
Really?
With George Boateng, we unveiled the model... We unveiled the maquette, the model bronze statue of Arthur live on stage in front of 14,000.
How small was it? Is that quite small?
It's not tiny, no. It's visible.
Handkerchief.
It's about 2.5 to 3 feet tall, very heavy.
It is really
bronze.
heavy.
Amazing.
You've held it, haven't you? Yeah. It's quite a considerable piece, but we unveiled it in front of 14,000 people.
Amazing.
Stevie spoke about, hearing Stevie Wonder talk about Darlington and the
That's so weird, isn't it?
It was lovely.
Amazing.
It justified my asking him to do it, because I just knew that he understood the wider socio-political kind of impact that it could have.
How did you ask him? You just ring him up?
You know, the idea came to me. I was going to a trade fair in Birmingham, and because I sell furniture, and it was funky furniture. If you imagine a tree carved into a sun lounger, that's the kind of furniture I do.
I'm getting a new flat soon. I'll come to sounds amazing.
So this happened.
Very
Don't
efficient,
ask me how I did it.
Shaun. You're very efficient.
I think if the message is right, it works out.
This is On FM on 101.4. Okay, and you're listening to the Lola and Lulu show, and if you want to get in touch, you can find us on @Lola and Lulu, that's on Twitter, the Lola and Lulu show on Facebook, or you can find us or email us, drop us a line at lolaandlulushow@hotmail.co.uk, and or you could text into the studio, which is 07986 137 239. That's 07986 137 239.
Calls will be charged at your standard network, right?
Oh, you're really good at that. She's getting really good at that, isn't she?
Isn't it?
It's a bit of a sleepy voice.
Calls will be charged. I like it. But, OK, now, welcome back to the show after the news, obviously. We've got Shaun Campbell here from the Arthur Wharton Foundation. We're very pleased to have you, Shaun. I think for this show, to just add a little bit more pizzazz, is that a word? I would quite like some canned applause.
Oh.
That's my request. That's my request. So if anybody would like to record some canned applause...
a team of people to come in and just do a bit of clapping for a bit.
Just little people. Maybe not little. They don't have to be little. But
anyone with hands.
Like this. No, it still sounds like I'm doing my own special effects.
Yeah, you can't clap as though you're a crowd.
I know.
It's too hard. Clapping all over the place, Lola, does not make it a crowd of people.
Does that sound? Hey, look at that.
Actually, that wasn't bad.
I think I'm getting
there. It sounded like Wembley Stadium. That's amazing.
Living the dream. OK, Shaun, welcome back. We would like to talk a bit about the Arthur Wharton Foundation that you're up for an award for tonight at the Blacklist Awards. Big up. That's going to be very exciting. We've already quizzed Shaun today on whether he's got, fresh underwear and clean socks for this award.
That is a major concern of yours, isn't it, Lola?
Well, I just think... I just think, you should make an effort.
Yeah.
I did see somebody the other day, though. I bumped into somebody, and it was about 2:30 yesterday, and on the tube. Now, it's very hard. I'm sure all you female listeners can empathise, and some of you male listeners who like to make a big effort with the hair. It's very hard to keep a good barnet on the tube. Now, it's every time... Shaun has very curly hair.
I do.
And... I saw somebody and she'd looked like straight out of an absolute photo shoot with a big coiffed, fabulous bouffant
She probably got up at 3 to look.
Oh, it just depressed me. And then I see, someone else who's, got wet hair from the shower still on the tube.
That's what I do.
Do you? Do you?
Yeah.
That's not good for you, though, is it? You can get a cold.
No, you can't. That is a lie.
It's not a lie.
That's a myth.
It's not a lie.
Read it in the paper.
It's not like, where did you read it? The Daily Mail?
Yeah, probably.
Trying to kill you.
No, it is a myth. Yeah, you can get cancer from wet hair. You can't. No, I think it is. It's
because your heat comes out your head, and if your head's wet, all your heat comes out your head. That warms you up, doesn't it? All the heat comes out your head.
Yeah, why would heat coming out of your head make you have a cold?
Because then the damp's on your head.
No.
Obviously,
I think
is
your scientific research into heat coming out of your head doesn't stand up as a reason why it gives you a cold.
I'm going to find this. Before the show is out, I will find this, and it's definitely true. Now, Arthur Wharton was the first black footballer in history, and... So we think that in the time, 1883, in northeast... Well, it would have been a rural town then, wouldn't it? Yes, called Darlington. He was playing professional football in front of, basically, what would have been a nearly all-white crowd, wouldn't it?
Correct.
With an all-white team, apart from him.
Yep.
So the racism that he must have encountered must have been... it must have been second nature to him, because there was no real black equal rights then, was there?
No, there wasn't really. I mean... They're completely different times, the 1880s, to today. I mean, today we're supported with the kind of background and the backdrop of anti-racist campaigns.
Yeah.
The rights and wrongs. We're impacted by the economy, for example. When the economy hits really hard, the default position of the indigenous population, if you like, is to look after their own, right?
Oh, yeah.
So anybody from outside becomes more of a target. As we have to tighten our belts more, perfect example. I'm falling off a cliff, and you come along and you see me. You're probably going to help me up, rather than let me slip.
That's a bit awkward.
I don't know. Lola's a bit.
Shaun. Obviously, I would.
Yeah, but if you're there with your husband or your child or your a loved one, and we're both falling off, you're going to save them first, aren't you? Of course you are. I mean, okay, narrow that right down, and let's look at how that's going to impact on the immigrant population in this country. This is the world's worst ever economic crisis we're in at the moment. And racism is coming back to the fore because we resort back to tribalism. I mean, think of the racism back in 1883, 1886. There wasn't really an issue about immigrants taking jobs and taking positions of power, so there wouldn't have been quite as much controversy if you think about it. Although it will have been quite a stark and shocking image for most white people.
But there would have been much more ignorance, surely.
Precisely. But then here we are, 2011, and I pick up the newspaper today, and we've got our England football captain, John Terry, accused of racism against Anton Ferdinand.
Unbelievable this is. Tell us a bit about what has happened.
This is On FM on 101.4.